Welcome to the Leverage Your Potential podcast. This podcast is hosted by the Director and Assistant Director of Menlo College's Office of Internships, Career Services, and Study Abroad, Dylan Houle and Kelly Davis, in partnership with Menlo's Content Creation Club. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Leverage Your Potential podcast. I'm your host today, Kelly Davis, the Assistant Director of Career Services and Study Abroad at Menlo College. I'm here today with my co-host, Bianca. How's it going, Bianca?
Hi, Kelly. I feel so great to be back here. I was missing the podcast already.
Excellent. And we're really happy to bring on our guest today, Yasmin Gomez. Hello, Yasmin. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me over.
Of course. We're so glad to have you on as a guest today. Yasmin Gomez is a recent graduate of Menlo College. She graduated in December of 2019, so very recently. And she is currently working for the Pacific Autism Center for Education in San Jose. Is that right, Yasmin?
Yes, Santa Clara. Mm-hmm.
Santa Clara. Perfect. So Yasmin, without further ado, if you want to tell us a little bit about you, the company or the organization that you're working for, and what you are doing with the Pacific Autism Center for Education, that would be great.
Yeah, so Pacific Autism Center for Education is a nonprofit, and so actually it caters to the autism community. And within this organization, there's 4 different programs, which is the PACE School, the Sunny Days Preschool. They also have behavioral therapy programs and services, and then they also have a residential program for adults and also kids, children with autism. So it's totally, it's still somewhat in the education realm. So after Menlo, being working with higher education, it was a little bit different, transitioning into special needs education. But it's been really great. There I am the marketing and development associate. So there is a lot of, things that overlap with everything that I've learned at Menlo, working there at the alumni office, and now with what I'm doing. So, thank you, Menlo. They did really help me a lot in transitioning to the real world.
So we like to say. And yeah, that's kind of a perfect tie between your major marketing and what it is that you are doing now. What led you to decide on majoring in marketing, Yasmin?
Well, I always say that I just got really lucky because I kind of always knew, like right straight after high school, I kind of, did my research, and I knew I wanted to go into like the business field. Started researching, what I could focus on, and it kind of worked out as I did sort of process of elimination. I kind of went through like all of these descriptions of what the degrees would look like, just like how can I say this? Like I guess you could say just like, the descriptions. And I just kind of knew myself really well. And I also took my personality into an account, and I knew that marketing would allow me to be a lot more, creative, and I could do so much with marketing. Not to say that you can do a lot with other, degrees, but I just knew that marketing would allow me to be very creative, which is something that I was really looking for. And yeah, that's kind of how I really got into marketing.
I really like what kind of the process that you described, where you did a lot of research and you also took your personality into account. That's something that in the Career Services Office, we definitely try to help our students do as well, using tools like Focus to Career to have students assess themselves and what it is that they might be interested in doing for a living, and exploring kind of different elements, and also what other kinds of jobs and industries are out there that will kind of fulfill those innate skills, but also what they prefer. So that's very cool that you took that approach.
Thank you for sharing this. I'm I'm sorry. I was gonna say thank you for sharing this self-journey or discovery with us. And right now it has been about 6 to 7 months since you began working on your full-time position. And can you tell us a little bit more how was switching from the student to the full-time employee? How has the journey been like for you?
Yes. So, as I was mentioning to you guys a little bit earlier, it wasn't for me specifically, honestly, it wasn't, it wasn't too bad at all. It wasn't really a big of a difference just because I was already working while, going to Menlo. As I mentioned, I was working at the alumni office. And before the alumni office, I was also, working. So I've actually been working pretty much my whole college career time, which is, I guess, a really helpful tip that I would give, a student in college right now is, really go out there and try to get that experience, even if it's just, a part-time or an internship, whatever it may be, but that does really help you, because, school from an actual job, it is very different, especially with the day-to-day things and what that looks like. But me personally, I think that the transition ended up working really well, like I said, where Menlo did help me a lot. And so I like to say that, I felt really ready, and I felt like I did have those skills that really helped me ease in to this role already. And yeah.
What would you say a typical day looks like for you at your full-time role? And I don't know, what have the changes been, especially from kind of pre-pandemic to going remote? Are you working remote now?
Yes, I am working remote full time. Actually, the here at Pace, they have started to reopen just a bit for a specific cohort of students, and the headquarters are based on the main school campus, so that's where we are at. And we're allowed to go in there, a few hours a week, or kind of it's really neat because Pace just is very flexible with our schedules and things like that. But for the most part, yes, I am working remotely, and the day to day, it has changed a bit, specifically when we're talking about events. As you know, a lot of events have been canceled, and a lot of our fundraising events have been canceled. So we have kind of had to improvise and, come up with different ways to raise funds and things like that. Since, our really big fundraising events, they, unfortunately, they just couldn't happen. So I think right now, I would say that's the biggest difference, is like the focus, has been heavily on social media as well. And that is one of the things that I take care of on the daily is social media, anything that has to do with communications, whether they are externally, internally, newsletters, things like that. And of course, on the development side with donors, gifts, things of that nature. But yes, I think the biggest impact for us at this moment has definitely been, our fundraising events and just trying to improvise.
Definitely. And I remember before you took this job, you were really excited to take on the role because it was kind of the next step up. And if I remember correctly, do you have someone who's leading the marketing who works above you, who kind of supervises you?
Yes. So it is a nonprofit, so we are small. Our team so I'm the associate there, then there's the marketing and development manager, and then there's the director.
Okay. And But that's a lot to learn. I mean, you were kind of just, I remember you were going, okay, this is a lot to take on to begin with back in December, but you were really excited about it. And all of a sudden we had this sudden shift in everything that we know. And it's like you're full steam ahead with the social media and everything, just trying to captivate people online and engage them. So I could imagine that might have been a little overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I love social media. I love, you know, just keeping up with our team, our communications, and I love what PACE does. I love, you know, everything that we do. It really, you know, we really do stick truly to our mission, and so I think that's what really has helped me personally, not, you know, kind of stress too hard over this, because I mean, PACE has continuously kept on working with our students via distance learning, and actually our residential group homes, they have always been operating, you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, obviously. So, you know, it's PACE is just honestly really good at what they do, and we, you know, thankfully we generate a lot of content through, you know, our teachers, our staff of teachers and therapists, things like that. So, you know, they have actually been really helpful with helping me and advancing my work. So, yeah, I mean, it's honestly been great.
Yeah, that's super amazing. I think even in this time when everyone's pretty much strapped for resources in the nonprofit world, to feel like you have that support is so huge. So I'm very happy for you for that. That's awesome. And we've mentioned,
thank you.
yeah, we've mentioned that PACE is a nonprofit and Menlo College is too a nonprofit. Do you feel like you've spoken a lot to how working at Menlo in the alumni office has really helped you transition into that full-time employee and be as successful as you are at what you do? Is there anything particular to working at a nonprofit that has helped you work at this other nonprofit specifically?
I think more than anything is the fact that I was working at the development office, that, you know, that I think helped me a lot, because, you know, marketing is one thing and development is another, although they can go hand in hand with each other. There's, you know, it's slightly different. And so I think that's for me, that was the biggest, I think the most that I took out of the office, is, you know, the importance of giving back, and what that looks like, and what it looks like to engage donors, and what it looks like to, you know, and then for Menlo specifically, it was dealing with alumni and how, you know, how to engage alumni, how to, you know, like things like that. I think that was really the biggest thing that helped me, because it, like I said, it's just different. It's a little bit different than marketing. It's not just, you know, with communications and things like that. So yeah, I don't know if that fully answers the question, but, you know, I just think learning the importance of giving back and what that looks like, and coming up with different strategies, and being in those meetings and hearing about the future plans, while I was at Menlo, you know, getting different ideas, all of those things really helped me piece together, to, you know, the, like what I took out of there, and to help me kind of puzzle it back over here, and connect the dots.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The kind of tie between the making sure that you know how to communicate to people what the core of that mission is, and really make sure other people buy into it, almost quite literally. So fundraising is it's important, and definitely with that marketing fundraising combo, you are never not going to be in demand as an employee.
Absolutely. And I think also learning, not only learning to engage with alumni, but also, as you're saying, the development, how to engage donors and how that looks like and what you say, when you say, and how to develop this relationship. And I think the fact that you had this experience at Menlo, it's really great. And I'm sure it has been working. It's also because there are quite similar fields, right? One is special needs education, another one's higher education, but I do feel like they're connecting. But shifting a little bit from what you're doing right now and coming a little bit to your Menlo experience, you were part of the very first leadership cohort for University Innovation Fellows. You have caused an tremendous impact building the Innovation Center, which is where all the innovation at Menlo happens, which also came to reality with a donation from alumni, right? Which connects as well when you were working for the office and you built this whole like classroom and it's built on innovation. And just giving a little background to our audience, UIF is a program at the Stanford Z School, and the goal is to empower students to become change agents. And the way they do that is by giving an intensive training on design thinking, and from there on, connecting students from different higher education institutions to do special projects in their schools. And it has to become a lifetime fellowship. And during your time as a fellow, you were a really strong advocate for student parents. Can you tell us a little bit more about your experience as a student parent navigating college life and also your advocacy work?
Yes. So, being a student parent was definitely different than, your regular student. At times, it was definitely hard to have to be away from my daughter. And, when I first started in Menlo, she was she was barely starting to walk. So she was only like a year old. By the time I left Menlo, she was about to be 4 years old. So, basically Menlo not only saw me grow, but they also witnessed my daughter growing. And so it's definitely, Menlo just holds a very special place in my heart, because they really did take me in without, really knowing a thing about college. And I was also first gen, so there was just a lot going on, within my personal life and, connecting going into this journey, as a college student. And as far as, my advocacy work, so with the UIF, Bianca, as they asked us to focus on a big project. And for us, that was the Innovation Center. So we noticed that, there wasn't, really a space for us students to come together and talk everything business, or and especially when we went to the D school for the first time, we saw just how different it was and how inspiring that type of setting was, to have like just the type of space that it would allow students to get creative, to come together and build a business if they wanted to, and what that would look like. So, and me connecting that with being a parent, I always thought about, well, it's that opportunity, you know what I mean? Like, for me as a parent, as the first gen, it was, like I said, it was different. And at times it was very hard. And if it wasn't for the UIF and for me connecting with these people, I feel like I wouldn't have had all of the opportunities that I had. And so really sometimes it just is your connections, and empathizing and everything, which is all what the UIF stands for. So I kind of took that, and personally, and that's kind of why I was such a strong advocate for that Innovation Center as well, because I knew that, or students specifically of all types of different backgrounds, all types of different life paths, coming together, emphasizing, building great stuff. I mean, I'm classes are now held in the Innovation Center for the same reason, because it's just such a unique and different space. So yeah, that's kind of where all of that, for me personally, how that connected to that Innovation Center.
Wow, that's amazing. I have to share a little secret with everyone that one of the reasons that I applied to be a fellow was because I saw your testimonial, that it's right there on the website, and you talking about how impacted your journey as a student. And I just thought that was so powerful that I wanted to be a part of it. And we all have seen the impact, like the Innovation Center is there, and all the great stuff that came after the Innovation Center were built inside of that room, right? Talking about TEDx Menlo College, Startup Weekend, and Wild, and Woke's Innovation Club. Everything happened while we were all sitting there. So I think your goal has been met in ways that you haven't even seen, right? Because when you left, you don't see it, but I'm here to tell you
Right.
that it has been achieved, and we're gonna miss it, right? If we cannot be there physically in the fall all together, we're gonna miss it. But I'm sure when time comes, we'll all be back together. But also talking about being together, we both took Latinx politics together with Dr. Michelson. And from that, I also happen to know that you're an advocate for Latinx rights. What main changes would you like to see for Latinx in leadership in the upcoming years?
Yeah, so that's a big topic, but there's a lot, especially with the political climate right now. So that's another whole conversation. But I am also a dreamer. For those who don't know, I'm a DACA recipient. So it's been tough. It's been a challenge having kind of to navigate these years with a bit of uncertainty, in, like I said, in the political climate. Like, we kind of don't know what to expect. And as far as Latinx leadership, especially now being in the workforce, for me, I would love to see more Latinx individuals in management, in director positions. For me, that would be something that should be happening. And I think for me, I've noticed that there just isn't as much of Latinx individuals in management, or at least for my specific experience in the workforce, I honestly haven't seen it much. And I know that those individuals are out there. It's just, like I said, I think it's more about those opportunities and those connections. So I think for me in the future, it's definitely, how might I help, individuals get there, or, myself. And I think it starts with you, and then, how do you help others as well? So I think that, being first gen as well, and coming from a big Mexican family, that's kind of been a really big goal of mine, is how do I kind of break that cycle and succeed? For me, that really is success, is just helping out one another, and kind of getting everyone out there, because I feel like sometimes some individuals, because we don't see it, it almost seems impossible, but it's not that way. And that was another thing that I would tell a lot of students when I was going through college, through my whole college career, is come on, if I can do it, you can most definitely do it. So I think it's all a matter of a mindset, and there's always going to be that one person, there's a lot of good people out there. And so, if it wasn't for, you guys and many others throughout my college experience, I feel like I wouldn't be where I am today. So I think it's the same for the workforce and Latinx in leadership. I feel like there's always going to be that one person that if they just have that opportunity, if somebody just were to give this person an opportunity, they would, God, that would be the biggest difference in the world. So I think, I think that's definitely a challenge for me, and that's more of what I want to see. So hopefully, little by little, we can see that progress.
And what I love about that, Yasmin, is I get the sense that you are already giving back in your work because you're working for PACE, which is, helping, focused on education for those with autism or those who are close to people with autism. And there were a lot of things that you said in telling your own personal story right now, but intersectionality is certainly one of them, and the many identities a single person can take on, and how there are so many ways to help. And it seems, especially as you pointed out in this political climate, it can feel so difficult, right? I mean, we're seeing an attack on international students, which you wouldn't expect. Right. And okay, so some people might not say it's an attack, but the international ed community, people are very on the edge of their seats. But I think that that you're right, that there are ways, and what's really important is that we figure out how, as individuals and collectively, we can support those who need it most, and use what we have, or resources we have. So kind of leading into my next question, I think that it's interesting that you're working for an organization that's focused on education, and so I have as someone who works in education as well, I have some questions that kind of relate to what we were just talking about. But I'm curious to know first, what do you have any visions for the future of your career path, or what your next milestone might be? Maybe you're not quite there yet because it's only been about 6 months, but what do you kind of envision in the future? Are you interested in working in education in general, or organizations that work on education? Is that a piece of it, or is it more maybe in that marketing direction, et cetera?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. I mean, eventually I would love to have my own business, but that's still kind of in the works, and I'm still, brainstorming how that would look like. But more in the, I guess, like, shorter term, is me going to grad school. I think I've definitely have made up my mind that I do want to go back to school eventually, but I also don't want to stop working. So, it's funny how things work out, because I didn't think I would stay in sort of the education sector, but more as time goes by, more and more I feel like I really will. And actually, eventually, I would love to even maybe go for my PhD and hopefully become a professor. I don't know. Those are things I've been thinking about, and that's more like on the long run there. But education, the education field, I think that's definitely still going to be in my life for a big moment there. So, and even if, talking about, my business in the future or something like that, I really want it to have an educational component to it. So, no matter what, I think I really fell in love with just learning, and I think helping others learn as well is very important. Like you said, with PACE, I've learned so much myself, and I've been able to teach others, what I know now about, the special needs community and autism specifically, and even just, my family, what it looks like to be working with this community, and just like the great work that they do, and just the immediate needs that there are, so I would definitely say that the education is still going to be there with me for a while.
Well, that's exciting for the education sector. I think it needs you. I'm serious though. I mean, we talk about all, what can we do as individuals for others, but I think that also there's a bit of a, collective and structural or systematic piece of it, and being able to ensure that everybody has access and equity in education is huge. So I'm glad that you see that in your future, because I think it's important and it's exciting.
It's very inspiring to hear that from you, and I agree with Callie 100%. I see there's a lot of exciting things in the education sector that will be coming from you, and I do think you're a role model for a lot of students, even at Menlo and outside of Menlo as well. And you have so many passions, right? You excel in all the things you have touched in your life, but when you're thinking about all of these passions and the advocacy work you're doing for education and for Latinx and for student parents, what is the one that excites you most? And like outside of your day job, what are some of your strongest passions? If there's a problem in the world that you could solve it, which one would you solve first?
Well, I feel like it would definitely be within Latinx politics. I'm very there's just so much I wish I could do, honestly. There's so much. I even I kind of try to tell myself, well, let's start somewhere. So I think, if I could, I would definitely be an even bigger advocate for immigrant rights and things of that nature. Actually, on my free time, I love to keep up with, and of course it has a lot to do, with my background and my family as well, which I think just kind of comes naturally, obviously, of me to be very aware of what's going on with politics and things like that. I do have a very good friend of mine who is thinking of running for, to be in office in the future. So who knows? Maybe she'll want me to be part of as part of her marketing campaign or something. I don't, those are just things that I'm really passionate about, is actually politics. And actually, before, one of the things, as I was trying to use that whole process of elimination with my career, choosing my career, politics was one of the things on my list there. So yeah, I think if I could, it would be, being a stronger advocate for immigrants, and especially with everything that we see in the border right now with the kids there. I think is one of the immediate things that I would love to kind of give more of my attention to, and see how I could just make that situation better, because it's just kind of awful, I mean, it's really awful that the kids shouldn't be in those situations, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I just try to keep myself informed as much as I can on the daily with what's going on, because I think it's important to, like I said, to keep learning, to keep staying educated, and to learn for yourself, what is going on.
Definitely. Absolutely. And I think I could also see you in politics, Yasmin, if you ever decided to go in that direction. I think it's, it's the person who has many passions, I think is lucky, even though it can be difficult to sometimes have to make that decision, like which one do I go after now. But I think to care is so wonderful at the end of the day. So thanks for sharing all the things that you care about, because they are all so important. And now to kind of wrap up our conversation here, which has been great, especially I think for Bianca and I, it's almost a means of catching up with you. But here at our podcast, we also like to ask our guests what they're currently reading. Usually, sometimes we go with the angle of what are you reading now to kind of further your learning. But I think, you know, especially as a mother, as a full-time worker, adjusting to remote life, totally understandable if you have not been reading nonfiction to expand, you know, one aspect of your knowledge in something. But, you know, totally, if you have, you're welcome to share that, or any documentaries you've seen or TV shows that you like, or any podcasts you listen to. What are you doing kind of on the side right now?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so before to you and Bianca, you know, the switch with me to remote, having to work, you know, remotely at home, and then there's my daughter who also had to switch with distance learning and learning at home as well. So honestly, for me, it's been a whole lot of homeschooling, you know, with Delilah and all the kid books, honestly. So Dr. Seuss is definitely a favorite.
There we go.
with Delilah at the moment. She's doing very well with all her letters and her numbers. She just finished pre-K this year, so I officially have a kindergartner. It's so bittersweet because yes, so bittersweet because, you know, she's growing, but you know, for me it's like, oh, she'll always be my baby. And yeah, it's been fun with her. That kind of on the side is what I've been doing as well, as just learning along with her, helping her grow. But a book that was actually recommended to me that I will start reading soon, I wanted to share with you guys really quick, is called 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And it's actually a really, really interesting book. So you guys should check that out. And it kind of goes hand in hand with, you know, with what we were talking about with, you know, just the people in power and how to look at different situations in different ways. So it's always good to have other perspectives and other ways, and yeah, ways to just handle different situations. So I'll be reading that book, starting to read that book very soon, hopefully.
Book club. That sounds super interesting. 48. Wow. That's a lot.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes, the audiobook will definitely be my best friend.
There we go. Yeah, definitely. Well, you know, but speaking to your point about various perspectives, which is the point of reading the book, I think there's so much to be gained even from kids literature. I worked at a bookstore for just a little bit of time, and that's when I started reading even books geared towards 8 to 12, that age range. And I think it's such a nice, it's, first of all, they're easier to read, right? But they have all these, like, good books will have these messages, and they're told beautifully because they're geared towards these younger age groups. So I in my opinion, you know, Dr. Seuss totally counts. So
yes.
He reminds you of those simple things that we need reminding of.
Yes, definitely.
Yasmin, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to talk to you and have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you so much.
And that wraps up today's episode, everyone. Remember that you can find our episodes on anchor.fm or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. There's a bunch of different ways you can tune in. You can also check out our blog at blog.menlo.edu/career-services/. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Leverage Your Potential podcast. Episodes are posted weekly and can be found on our blog at blog.menlo.edu/career-services/. Make it a great day.